everyone. Today I'm here to share with you the books that I currently have checked out from the library. Also going to share with you the books that I have on hold that hopefully come in the next couple of weeks, and also books that I have requested via Interlibrary loan. A lot of these are going to be repeats from my last couple of videos, so I'm sorry, I guess. The first book that I have to show you is The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. It is described as a page-turning modern gothic novel. I get the impression that it is a modern haunted house story, and I don't really want to know much more than that. As I stated when I showed this last time, it is a book that is adored by people that I adore and whose opinions I respect, so I have high hopes for this one. The next book I have checked out from the library, I almost kind of picked up on a whim after seeing her interview on one of my favorite late night TV shows. It is Not That Kind of Girl by Lena Dunham. It is a feminist-esque type memoir by Lena Dunham, whom I actually know very little about, surprisingly, because apparently she's kind of a big deal. I'm just, you know, living under a rock. But I'm looking forward to this, and hopefully I'll get to read it before I have to turn it back in. I'm actually surprised that I got to check it out first. The next book I have checked out from the library is The Kiss of Deception by Mary Pearson. This is a young adult fantasy novel, I believe. It centers around a young woman who is arranged to be married to a prince, but she doesn't want anything to do with that, so she runs off and tries to make her own life in a small town far away. Mysterious men, two of them, come into this town who she finds quite interesting. We as the reader, because of the synopsis, know that one of these men is the prince who she left at the altar and an assassin that has been sent to kill her, but she doesn't know that. So we don't know which is which, and so we don't know who to root for. Very love triangle-y, which is usually a deal breaker for me, but it just sounds like fun. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think I'm going to be doing a very casual buddy read on Twitter. So if you're interested in being involved in that, please let me know. The next book that I have checked out from the library, I picked up almost entirely impulsively. It was kind of strange. I'll share the story after I share the book. It is The World According to Garp by John Irving. This is an interesting story as to why I picked this book up from the library. My library recently did their library book sale, and I resisted temptation and ended up not buying anything, but one of the things that I was really wanting to purchase from the book sale was The Cider House Rules by John Irving. It was a nice, well-worn mass paperback edition, and it was like eight books for $1, but I resisted, and by the advice of my dear friends on Twitter, I decided to go up into the stacks and see if I could find it. And of course they had it, but it was big and huge and chunky, and generally our library doesn't have a lot of paperback books because they're easily destroyed, but they had this one. And so I decided to pick it up, and I had actually been interested in reading this whenever I was in my Robin Williams obsession phase shortly after his passing, because this was made into a movie that starred Robin Williams, and I just kind of thought it was serendipitous that our library had an edition that my high maintenance bookish shelf would want to check out. So whether or not I'll read this before I have to turn it back in is another thing. It's just, I wanted a John Irving book and I wasn't gonna buy one, so I checked it out from the library. It is about a young man who has a very eccentric childhood and life, and hopefully eventually sometime in life, if not in the near future, I will eventually get to this. And the last book that I have checked out from the library is Blindness by Jose Saramago. This was a book that I was very interested in a couple of years ago, but I never got around to reading, and I was reminded about this book after uploading my Reading Diversity Tag video, which had a plethora of excellent recommendations, which I haven't been able to go through all of them yet and respond, but thank you if you left a recommendation. I really appreciate it, but this was one of them, and our library has it. It's a post-apocalyptic novel where a majority of the population goes blind. It's supposed to be, no pun intended, very dark and Orwell-esque, so I'm very interested in reading this. It is I believe it is also a translated piece of work, and it won the Nobel Prize for Literature, so I'm sure that it's goodness. I just don't know if I'll get around to it in the next month or so, but I can probably renew it and get around to it before the year ends, or hopefully soon after. On to the books that I have on hold. I think I mentioned this in my last video. I have The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan on hold, which was the 2014 Man Booker Prize winner, but more importantly, my dear friend Katrina from Little Book Owl made an amazing video and had an a very intense reaction to this book that just really inspired me to want to read it. I am the very next person on hold, so I'll probably get that later this month, and perhaps I will drop everything and read it. I also have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel on hold, but as you know, I've already purchased it on my Kindle. But I am a high maintenance reader. I'm very fussy. Like, sometimes I'll get tired of reading an ebook or a paperback and want to switch to one or the other. So that will be kind of nice to have, but I kind of think the right thing to do is just to cancel the hold, but we'll see if that happens. I also have requested some books for my interlibrary loan program. I won't know for a couple of days whether or not they went through. The first one is 2666 by Roberto Balaño. It is a huge, massive sci-fi novel by, I believe, a South American author. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Stephen from Seabreeze Books and Barry from Baz Pierce are doing a buddy read along with Elizabeth from Books and Junk. So I'm hoping that that comes in and maybe I can join in on that a little bit. It is huge, so I don't know if I'll actually be able to. I also requested St. Lucy's Home for Girls Raised by Wolves by Karen Russell. It is a collection of short stories, which I am coming around to. This book was not on my radar at all until I listened to this week's Book Riot podcast, and Rebecca Shinsky mentioned how it was being optioned for a television show, but the way she described it is just right up my alley these days. It's the bizarre and strange and fantastical magical realism presented in a way that this is just commonplace. And I don't know, I think it's the Fairyland series that's kind of pushed me into that, along with some other books I've read this year, but that just sounds amazing. But since I couldn't buy it, I requested it via Interlibrary loan. And those are all of the books that I currently have checked out, on hold, or requested from Interlibrary loan. I'm also interested in requesting the Miss Marvel comic. The trade just came out recently, I believe. It sounds amazing, and I think that that will probably be the next book that I either request my library to buy or get from Interlibrary loan. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please feel free to share your thoughts on any of these books in the comments below. And if you think I should bump one of these up higher on my TBR, please let me know. And I will see you soon with a new video.